Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have a really exciting webinar coming up that I'm looking forward to discussing. But first, I have a few reminders while folks are still joining before we get started. First, we like to keep our webinars conversational, and we welcome your questions throughout the webinar. You can send the questions to the panel through the Q&A button located on the bottom of your Zoom control panel. We will try to answer as many questions as we can live, but if we don't get to your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you after. You can also follow today's conversation on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting throughout the webinar. Our Twitter handle is @Rio_SEO, and we'll be using the hashtags RioWebinar and Future of Marketing. Finally, we will send a link to the webinar recording within 24 hours, so look out for a follow-up email from our marketing team. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're rapidly approaching the end of the year. Blink once and we'll be catapulted into 2023. And if you're anything like me, as a digital marketer, you're likely always thinking ahead, even if the current year hasn't concluded yet. The most effective way I've found to kickstart the new year on the fast track to success is to gain an understanding of how marketing trends unfolded and shifted and progressed over the past year. That's why I'm joined here today by some of the best in the SEO and marketing industry to help me discuss the numerous search engine updates that took place over the course of 2022 and how those updates are impacting the state of local search and what this means for the future. We'll also dive into the most impactful search engine updates of 2022 and why they matter, what marketing tactics worked in 2022 and what didn't, demystifying what's changed with Google Business Profile, Apple Maps, and more, and what deserves your focus and attention in 2023. My name is Chelsea Alves. I'm a senior content marketing specialist at Rio SEO, and I will be moderating today's discussion. I'm excited to introduce the panelists joining me today. I have on the call Sherry Bonelli, owner of Early Bird Digital Marketing, Steve Wiedemann, senior search strategist at Wiedemann Consulting Group, and Stefan Sombarak. Sorry guys, just one second. Went to the wrong slide. The fun of doing live webinars. The founder of Marketing Metrology and GBP product expert. I'll have all of you briefly introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your backgrounds. Steve, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I've been in digital marketing about 25 years. Our group here in Los Angeles is about 12 digital marketers now, and we work with a lot of multi-location franchises. And when I'm not here at the office, building strategies and doing forensic research on local search. I'm also teaching at UC San Diego, Cal State Fullerton, and Fullerton Community College. Last year, my co-author Scott Cowley and I put together a textbook for Stukent that's now been adopted by, I believe, 35 universities that offer an online extension for digital marketing certification. So definitely passionate about all things search and excited to be here and be part of the the discussion today.
Thanks, Steve. Stefan, would you like to go next? Oh, I think you're on mute, Stefan.
Yeah, I put myself on mute and I figured I'd forget at some point.
No worries.
Right out of the gate, so that's perfect. I run a small agency in Canada near Toronto named Marketing Metrology. And they also do some work with Steady Demand and the Ben Fisher and his team there out of the US. Mostly focused on Google business profiles and special sort of fringe cases when merchants are really stuck with bugs that arise. I do a lot of troubleshooting for the Steady Demand team. For the most part, I like that kind of work because I find I'm engaging with small business owners, and they're the ones who really get impacted by the problems that can arise when you get suspended or when there's a glitch with your business profile. So I feel like my work's really close to the people who get impacted the most, and I find that really rewarding.
Awesome. And Sherry?
Yes, I will go next, obviously. My name is Sherry Benelli. I own a company, digital marketing agency called Early Bird Digital Marketing in lovely Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've been a digital marketer for 25 years, along with Steve. I've been around to see lots of changes with the SEO and digital marketing industry. I focus primarily on search engine optimization, Google Business Profile. I'm a Google Business Profile Platinum product expert. And I also work on content marketing, retargeting, pretty much anything our agency does with regard to digital marketing. I'm also a LinkedIn Learning instructor, and I also teach at a variety of universities like University of California, Long Beach, Loyola University, and several other universities as well. And I have a podcast called the Marketing Plan Podcast as well.
Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for those introductions. As you can see, we got some great experts on today's webinar. Okay, so to kick today's discussion off, I'm going to do a quick audience poll. I would like to know, what are you most interested in learning about today? There are 5 different choices that you can choose from. So let's go ahead and launch this poll, or sorry, 6 choices. I'll give everyone maybe 30 seconds to answer. So we got 6 options: the future of visual search, the most impactful search updates to take place in 2022, the content you need to rise in search results, my online reputation management efforts, how AI is impacting local search, and creating a more immersive and personalized shopping experience. Okay, let's go ahead and see what people decided. Okay. Interesting. So we have 45% of people are interested in learning about content. And then it looks like a lot of people are interested in search updates also that took place in 2022. A lot of people are interested in the future of visual search. Yeah, cool. So we're actually going to be covering all these topics today, and we're going to get started by discussing Google updates in 2022. Okay, so we saw myriad Google updates in 2022, including the Google Helpful Content update, multiple product reviews updates, help attributes were added for the war on Ukraine, and more. Stefan, what update do you believe was most impactful to marketers in 2022?
I think it really matters. It depends on what kind of work you do. That there are so many examples where you see an algorithm change rollout, and you get concerned that you're going to see some changes in rankings, and there isn't any for your clients, or maybe some of them really get impacted. And so something that I've noticed for sure with my clients is that as these algorithm changes roll out, and sometimes you get some advanced warning and you get a little apprehensive, and sometimes it's a non-issue. And so I did have some cases where an algorithm update came and some clients really struggled and others didn't. So I would say there isn't one that's most impactful or more important than any of the others. It really is a matter of what kind of content you're dealing with. A recipe website or a medical advice website is going to handle or see really different changes compared to plumbers or service type businesses, which is where I do a lot of my work with small sort of local service businesses. So for me, little changes on business profiles, those are the ones that are really most impactful for my clients. And a lot of the big things like the helpful content update really wasn't a factor for a lot of those businesses. So, I really think it matters what kind of website, what kind of business you're dealing with.
I agree. And I feel like it's just important in general to keep or stay on top of the updates that do come out. Some of them are more impactful for different industries. So I agree with that statement. Thanks, Stefan. Let's talk about Google search evolving. So Google is progressively getting closer to understanding what drives search behaviors and ultimately deliver better experiences. Its technology is starting to emulate the way people process information, and in turn, search is getting progressively more visual, interactive, and exploratory, as most people are visual learners. As technology catches up to human behavior, Steve, how can marketers do more than just trying to show up for specific keywords?
Sure. I think the diversity of the results has, like you mentioned, evolved so much, and we get really myopic on blue links and black text, and that's 2003 SEO. It's, hey, let's get our listing in the 10 listings that appear in the search results. And now with endless scroll and universal search results, we have to think a little bit more broadly and get really creative on how we create content that doesn't just create a blue link and black text, but addresses an image carousel or a video carousel, or maybe the results that really stand out have really rich attributes to them, like stars or FAQs, things like that. So I think it's really important as you're looking at appearing for a keyword or a specific user intent, that you look at the search results to see what the competition is appearing for and what types of results you see in those search results. And then you take those attributes and you apply them to your content, and then you share those different media pieces, whether it's an image or a graphic or a video, through your different social sharing channels, your YouTubes and Pinterests, and you share that content so that as Google's crawling the web, it sees that as being helpful, useful, shared across other websites, and says, hey, maybe this is a good example of an image. If the person who's performing the query is looking for an image, which based on our analysis of how people are searching, maybe 20% are looking for an image. So that's why they're putting that image carousel in there. So I think universal search results is a great thing to pay attention to. I think, as we also think about voice search and how that continues to slowly evolve, even though Alexa is taking a bit of a hit recently, it's still important to think about how 70% or so of the answers usually are derived from the position 0 or the featured answer that you see at the top of the search results. So I think a lot of advertisers and marketers need to think about how they can solve problems that allow them to get that featured answer, because that will be the catalyst to more brand awareness in voice queries. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of how we're looking at broadening our viewpoint of what and how we could be appearing in search results.
No, that's great. We actually had Joy Hawkins on our previous webinar last month, who recently ran an image test for a lawn care company, and they had an image of a skunk originally for or on their landing page for why are skunks digging holes in my yard, or that was the term they were trying to target. And the landing page had a skunk on it, and they weren't ranking. So they did a test where first they did an image search of what's showing up for this keyword phrase. And they saw a lot of images of lawns with holes in it rather than the actual skunk itself. So they replaced the image on the landing page with a picture of a clear, high quality picture of a lawn with holes in it. And I think they said within a couple weeks, they had achieved a featured snippet for that long tail keyword phrase. So we're definitely seeing, that photo optimization is huge and something that marketers should focus on right now.
It was Mike Blumenthal that introduced me to AirCam, and AirCam had this really cool system that used Google's image recognition API. And they went into these restaurants, the few that we ran the test with, and they took pictures of all the food, and a picture wouldn't get submitted to the Google business profile unless Google's image recognition could have enough confidence, like 70-80% confidence, that image was of pancakes or that image was of a burger. And doing some of that, and the tool's free. You can go to the Google image recognition tool and put in an image and test to see whether or not that image is close enough so Google can figure it out, which allows you to appear for a lot of those longer tail keywords. Maybe somebody's looking for, I think the example was restaurant with onion rings near me, and having pictures of onion rings that Google recognizes as being onion rings when uploaded gives you that opportunity to appear more prominently, and that image will swap out in the Google business profile, the Google Maps profile, because Google will think, hey, this is what we think they're looking for based on our image recognition system. So let's put that image as the thumbnail. Really interesting tech, and I think it's a great idea for everybody who owns a business. Is just take as many pictures as you can about everything you do, everything you sell, everything you offer, test it through that image recognition, and then upload it to your Google Business profile.
Yeah, Chelsea, I'm actually working in a lot of my proposals now, hiring a professional photographer to actually go out and take photos.
Yeah,
So that's something that
Yeah.
I'm recommending to all of my clients now, is to have a photographer come out and actually take photos of their products or services, people at their computers and that type of stuff at different angles, because sometimes the angle makes a difference too.
totally. Or the lighting. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Shameless plug, but Rio recently added a local photo solution to our repertoire of products, and we connect multi-location brands with photographers in their local area to take high quality Google optimized images for their businesses. So
Yeah.
definitely
Speaking of
seeing.
photos, that picture on the slide is staring into my soul.
Yeah. Hey, it's a high quality image though. So
There is.
we got
And
to
it's an
practice.
eyeball,
speech.
definitely an eyeball.
All right, let's move on. Well, not move on. We're still on the topic of visual search, but diving deeper into visuals with the introduction of multi-search. Visual search is taking a big leap forward, and Google is going beyond the search box, as we've talked about for the past 10 minutes. Sherry, what opportunities can brands utilize in terms of visual search to stay ahead of the curve? If you have anything else to add to what we've already discussed.
Yeah. So for those that don't know what multi-search is basically when you use Google search on your phone and you click on the little, it's basically a lens, and you can either pull up a photo on your phone or you can take a picture of something and then search that way. And then if you click the plus, you can add text. So you can maybe take a photo if you're shopping of a purse and then say, how much does this cost, for instance? So you can combine a photo with text and do a search that way. And it's in beta right now in the US, from what I understand, and they're kind of exploring ways that they can use their MUM algorithm to kind of enhance those multi-search features too. So it's kind of interesting and exciting. And it goes back again to what we were just talking about, is stock photos are dead, guys. Don't, stop using stock photos, because I think Google is going to, I don't think they're going to start penalizing for stock photos, but they do want original photos. So for like Google business profiles, stock photos are pretty much banned. You do not want to upload a stock photo to your Google business profile. You want to upload photos that are original. And so original photos are really, really important. High quality. You don't want them to be blurry. And so you want to take multiple photos of your products, your services, people actually using your products and those types of things, different colors, if you have different color selections, if applicable, different angles. Like I said, sometimes the angle can make a difference. Google's cloud.google.com/vision is where you can go to test images and see what Google thinks your picture is a picture of. And it's very interesting to note that depending on what your industry is, so if you're a tattoo artist, for instance, or a massage therapist, and you're trying to upload photos with people that are partially naked or body parts, Google will sometimes kind of reject those photos because they think they're risque, for instance. And so it's interesting to see how Google thinks those photos are, as far as like a safety level for one, but then also what they think the picture is a picture of. So for instance, unfortunately, a deer hit my car the other day, not the other way around. I didn't hit the deer hit my car. I was driving 70 plus miles an hour. A deer rammed into my car. I took pictures of my car and uploaded it. Google saw my tires. They didn't tires first. So like 94% positivity, they saw tires before they saw my car. And so it's just really interesting to see what Google sees. And so definitely run your photos through the Google AI image testing to make sure that what you're uploading to your website is what you want Google to recognize. So those photos are going to be more and more important. And that's going to be the same thing with videos as well. There's tricks and strategies you can use with videos that I learned from the Google's unconference this year that blew my mind. Google can recognize videos and what's in videos. it's crazy. And so, just be aware that more and more you're going to be getting away from stock photos and moving towards original photos, and lots of them as far as that goes. Does that help,
That's
Chelsea?
great. That was wonderful. And I love that there's so many free tools people can use too. So,
Yep.
all right, let's think towards the future, since this webinar is about the future. So brands have a multitude of ways to get discovered aside from just Google. There's social platforms like TikTok. There's influencers that are promoting brands more than ever before. Will search remain the best way for brands to be found by relevant consumers in 2023? Sherry, I'm actually going to go back to you on this one.
Yeah, I will just say that search, whether you're using your Amazon Alexa, whether you're talking to Siri, whether you're typing a search query into Google search bar, whether you're taking a picture and using visual search, everything starts with a search. That's how people find your products and services. So yeah, search is going to be the best way for brands to find, or for consumers to find out about your brand. And so in my opinion, I mean, every business, whether you're a local business, even if you have a small budget, learn search engine optimization basics. I mean, there are basic things that you need to do on every single website. So even if you can't hire an SEO professional to help you, take the time to have someone on your team learn the basic strategies that are must-dos. But every business should have a search engine optimization strategy so that you start ranking organically on the search engine. So search is definitely a must for 2023 and beyond, because everything on the internet starts with a search.
Yeah, people don't manifest what they need, right? They look for it.
Yep.
That's a good point. And by the way, I do have a course. We're making some updates on it at Academy of Search. Anyone who's listening to the Rio webinar, if you want to take that course and not pay the $600 cost, just use code SEO Steve, and you're more than welcome to kick the tires on it. But it goes through all those disciplines we were just talking about, everything from tech SEO to content strategy to off-page and local, and how to measure results. So feel free if you want to explore that course. Again, it's going to have some updates next year, but just use code SEO Steve and you get free access to it. Academy of Search.
You can also type that into the chat box too, Steve, so our participants can see that if you'd like.
You got it.
But yeah, I totally agree. Just even doing just a basic course, if you're just getting started with SEO, can make all the difference.
Yeah, and Moz and the Search Engine Land, I think they all have basic guides that you can tap into and read those for free. And so just learning the basics and getting those basics down, content's a must too, guys. And it doesn't always have to be a blog post. It can be adding content to your site about your products and services. So
Amazing.
Definitely. So let's switch gears to hyper local marketing. So thinking of search at a local level, hyper local marketing enables brands to target prospects in a specific geographic area. The idea behind this strategy is to optimize a business for near me searches to generate more foot traffic or inquiries within that small area. Stefan, let's go to you on this one. How do brands benefit from hyper-local marketing, and what are some strategies to further personalize the customer experience?
Yeah, hyper local I find really fascinating. You know, the number of searches, percentage of searches that happened on mobile devices exceeded the number of searches happening on desktop sometime back in 2015 or 2016. So for the last 5 or more years, nearly a decade, more searches are happening on mobile than on desktop. And in a mobile device, there's a GPS radio. So when you do a search, Google knows where you are to within 6 feet. And if you want to see that in action, you know, you take your phone out in a dense metro and search for something like coffee shop, and then walk 2 blocks and search again, and the results change. And Google really is able to, for those mobile searches, show you really hyper local down to the, you know, results within a few blocks. there's not much you can do about that. I mean, if you have a storefront, your address is your address. You can't move it, and you can't have a storefront on every block unless you're CVS or Starbucks. But for most businesses, what you can do is look at what's relevant to your neighborhood. I've found, for example, there are some cities that have a lot of well-known neighborhoods, and you can see that on Google Maps. So I'm near Toronto, so I know if I go to the map of Toronto and zoom in and start panning around, I'll see named neighborhoods. I know Los Angeles is built up of neighborhoods. And if one of those or some of those neighborhoods are particularly relevant to your business, you might find that including content and references about those neighborhoods is really valuable, because people on the far side of the city might not need your service. Some services, like say you're a specialized piano mover or something, you might cover quite a large geographic area. But for a coffee shop, a pizza restaurant, something like that, a lot of your business is hyper local, and speaking to something as small as a neighborhood can really help you attract that local business.
If you want a good example, you could look at IHOP. We spent about 1.5 years data mining as much as we possibly could about each location. It takes a long time, but you think about how long organic takes in and of itself, and it's worth it, to assign some people to just basically get as much hyperlocal content as you can. Our study last year that we did, and it's available on the Wiedemann site if you want to look at the infographic and example, but showed that I believe it was 107% competitive advantage if you have hyperlocal content on your location pages. So we took that idea and we took all the information that we could find about distance from the freeway, local landmarks, things that are evergreen that aren't going to change. Like you don't want to put what business is next door, right? Because that business could change, but you could say what was important about that city or how far you are from a specific landmark or stadium, for example. And we did this, and we watched as our average position went from 12 to 7 for some keywords like breakfast delivery. We moved up to I think 4 on average for was it breakfast takeout, and more recently breakfast specials. And all these are specialty pages that Rio and the Wiedemann team worked hard to to develop, so that we could address all of the different localized ways that people are looking for our specific services, or that matches our business objective. For IHOP during the pandemic, of course, they wanted takeout and delivery orders because we were on lockdown. So the timing, couldn't be better for us to get some of those ideas approved and pushed out and published. So now across the board, anywhere there's an IHOP, if you do breakfast special in that city, or breakfast takeout or breakfast delivery, and now catering, you can see IHOP almost across the board. Now look at those pages, look at the delivery, the takeout, and the primary pages, pick them apart, and you can see some of those attributes that played a role in helping to do that. Now, what do you do off the web page? And we think about SEO basics. It's about the relevancy of our content, the visibility of that content off our website, and how users interact with it in the search results. How do we get other websites, to sort of promote our location? And I think Stefan nailed it. I think it's about doing local community events. Maybe you're going to do a Veterans Day promo, or if you're an attorney, you could do a helmet giveaway for kids, where you're giving away bicycle helmets for safety. And we had an attorney do this, and then we had a small street team go out to all the neighboring businesses to mention the event, including name, address, and phone number, which benefits what we want to do in the Google Map rankings side of things, as well as a backlink from those neighboring businesses to the website where they could find more information. So we earn backlinks and very localized citations by running and doing local events. So to me, between the on-page side of things and having it being super relevant, and the off-page side of getting neighboring businesses to link and mention the location, and a little bit of work with the developers to make sure that our listings stood out using structured markup in the search results, we were able to to see some pretty incredible results. So there's an example. If you want to see kind of a real live thing and reverse engineer it, by all means, check that out. And if you want to see the infographic and that study, it's on Wiedemann.com.
Yeah, those are all really great recommendations and suggestions. And yeah, I think it's really important with hyperlocal marketing, as Stefan said, to differentiate your content, So you're not having duplicate content for every single location,
Yep.
landing page, and making it relevant to the user by adding those landmarks specific to that location.
Thanks for
Another
bearing with me with the post bronchitis thing. I appreciate it.
Bronchitis is the worst.
Oh, it was awful.
All right, we kind of touched on content marketing in that last question, but we'll keep diving into that a little bit more since that was the top answer in our poll result earlier that people wanted to learn more about. So you've likely heard the phrase content is king, but there is a misunderstanding in how it is interpreted. Often as SEOs, we can find ourselves writing content for search engines instead of people. This includes, creating hundreds of generic blog posts, using keyword stuffing, and producing an abundance of content to meet a quota rather than providing actual value. The strategy can work if you improve the content's quality. However, when the competition gets stiff, that's when unique content wins the battle. So Steve, I'm going to go to you on this one. How can marketers generate unique link-worthy content?
It's a great question. And this does address one of the updates that happened in 2022, Google's helpful content update. And the reason I really got excited when I saw that update happen was because it was the first time that they had said anything in a post about signals that they use related to how people interact with your listing in the search results. They put in the helpful content update something to the effect of, do users have to search again to find what they were looking for, or do they find what they were searching for on your page? Which means basically you have to be the final destination that they land on. You've got to be the one that gets the click, and you've got to be the one that keeps the searcher on your page and not going back to Google and choosing a different result. So I think helpful content's not just about Googlebot crawling your page and finding a lot of topics and subtopics, which can be important, and how they test your page for those queries. But what's more important is, did you solve the intent of what the user was looking for? And I wrote an article years ago around title tag principles, right? And how you write title tags in the search results that people would want to click on. And when I did it, I invoked those same principles. I used a call to action, the keyword, and a unique selling proposition, because I knew people searching for title tag principles didn't care about title tags. They cared about boosting their click-through rates and improving their SEO. So I wrote that right in to solve the intent within that title. So as you're creating content, one, don't create content based on what you want to showcase. Create content based on what people are searching for, and build a roadmap, whether you're using SEMrush or Conductor Searchlight or Answer the Public to find and organize all of those keywords. Get that map put together of the primary topics and supportive subtopics, and make sure that every page, as we talked about earlier, has unique images, unique video. Think about the different types of markup you could use, such as frequently asked questions and ratings and reviews for local businesses. Those native reviews and ratings that you have on those local pages, keep those pages fresh, keep them keyword rich, because customers are talking about what your products and services are. There's so much that you can do. And then the easiest thing to do is simply go to the search results, study the top 10 pages that are appearing, and look at the topics and subtopics that are being used, and then aggregate those into your own outline, and then build your own better version of the answers, to those problems. The other thing you could do is just ask your customers, send out a survey and say, hey, we're doing a fun survey this month. If you participate, you could win a $200 Amazon gift card. And just say, what would you like to see as a customer on this page that would be more helpful? Use Mechanical Turk and ask the same question. Take the top ranking page in the search results, take your page, drop them into a survey within Amazon Mechanical Turk, and ask 1,000 people in the area that you serve which page is more helpful and why. And then take those different themes, run a pivot table, and see what the most common answers are, and take that back to the writing team and incorporate those into your next round of optimization. And don't rest on your laurels. Use tools like Visual Ping, Visual Ping, to get notified when your competitors change their version of the page that you're using to compete against. So you can see what they're testing and see how it affects their rankings if you're tracking them in a system like Rio or another third-party tool. Wow, that really benefited them when they added that location image. Maybe we should do location images as well. You go to your stakeholders and you say, hey, we really think we can improve the quality of our content by adding location images. Well, do you have anything to quantify it? Yeah, we've been watching a competitor and they've moved up 20% since they did theirs. Okay, great. Go ahead and run a test. So it gives you the ammunition you need to go to the key stakeholders to make that happen. So, and if you want more content ideas, by all means, everybody who's on this webinar, we love search. So if you want to see more examples of what we consider to be helpful content, by all means, reach out to any of us and we'd be happy to give you more examples.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you for all of that. We actually had a question come in for the panelists. This is going to be directed towards all of you if any of you know this answer. One of our audience members asked, do you think having a storefront for a service-based business hurts local search? Would you suggest hiding it? In the past, the address would help your ranking.
I don't know. I think ethics, right? I mean, look at, does it ethically make sense to do something that if it benefits your customers, by all means, but if you're doing it just for search, I don't think there's going to be a long-term win there. Stefan can talk more about this because he sees this all the time, right? with what you do with steady demand. So I'm going to defer to you on that one.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, there are rules that Google has that you have to follow. So I would start there, and that really does relate to the ethics. What is the best experience for your customers? Do you have an office where you genuinely interact with them face to face? Because if so, then that's where you should show that address. And if you don't, if you're using that to game the system, that raises another question, which is, does it actually work? Can you game the system by showing an address? And I have seen studies and I've done some experiments myself. The general understanding is, and this isn't documented by Google anywhere, but the general understanding is if you clear the address from your business profile, Google still sees your business as existing at the address that it has in the back end. This is a map. Everything needs to have a location. And so service area businesses are pinned to some physical address, some physical location. It's just not shown on the map. And so if you use a tool like a grid scanning tool like Local Falcon, you could run a test on an SAB. If you know where it's located and you center your grid on that location and run a scan, you'll see the typical GeoGrid ranking pattern where it ranks best at that location and it radiates outwards in a decreasing ranking sort of fashion, just like you would if you were showing your address. So it is not supposed to, and it appears not to change the way a business ranks, whether or not you show the address. I've heard a lot of people argue otherwise, and there's definitely something that people need to be aware of, that there is still an ongoing bug with business profiles where Google can lose track of that address that it's hanging on to in the back end, and then suddenly it doesn't know how to rank the businesses. This is known as the Kansas bug, so you might have heard of that because it's been around for years. And that's definitely something to consider. If you get suspended or if you and in the process, you hide your address, you might find you come back to the map and you don't show up at all. And so that might be a different issue altogether. It's not an issue of does having an address or hiding an address help you rank? That's an issue of a longstanding bug. So I would say, to wrap it up, showing your address or hiding your address isn't supposed to affect your rankings. You can test it, and I think you'll find that it doesn't. There are people who disagree, and ultimately I agree with Steve that it is a matter of your business model and how you serve your clients and what's best for them.
I drew that inspiration from Jim Rohn, who said that you don't have to do extraordinary things to be successful. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. So just think about that.
And if I can just jump in for a second too, along with what Stefan and Steve had mentioned, there are guidelines and rules that you have to follow if you have a storefront. So you have to actually meet with customers at that location. You have to have employees, staff there during business hours. You have to have permanent signage. So there are rules and guidelines. And if you change your address, Google may do a video verification. So you're going to have to show all of that. So if, like Stefan said, don't try and game the system. It's just not worth it, because changing the address, for instance, could trigger a suspension. So, I mean, there's lots of things to consider. So my recommendation always to clients is, if you're doing something to try and increase your rankings, artificially, it's generally not worth doing. That's just my advice.
Or short-lived at best.
Yes, thank you, Stefan. Exactly.
Love it. Amazing.
Good. Hopefully that answered their question, but I think it will because that was great advice from all of you. So sticking with the topic of content marketing, I'm going to talk about AI next. So AI is prevalent in every form of marketing, including content marketing. I have my own thoughts on this, but I'm going to ask Sherry. Is AI written or generated content something content marketers should consider, or is this a no-go?
Yeah, so AI writing content tools, I think, are okay as long as you don't take that content and put it on your site verbatim. So I think AI writing content tools are great for coming up with ideas and coming up with thought-provoking titles and maybe section headings and stuff like that. But you never, ever, ever want to just take it verbatim and take that content and put it on your site. So I recently interviewed Jasper AI's owner, Austin Diestel, and he said the same thing. It's meant to be a tool to give you some ideas, but you always want to edit it. You always want to add your own voice. You always want to add more content. The other thing you need to do is fact check. So if there's specific information that like dates or statistics, are they correct? Because for instance, if the content that's spit out by these tools is different than 90% of the other websites out there, Google's not going to trust your information. Yeah, and then you also need to plagiarize check. So run it through Copyscape and make sure that there's no plagiarism. So I use Jasper sometimes with some of my content, but I always heavily edit it. But I use it mostly to come up with ideas that I wouldn't have thought of my own. And then I will often run it through Market Muse or Surfer SEO to come up with semantic topic ideas and keywords that, again, I wouldn't have thought of. And those two tools are awesome at coming up with semantic keywords that competitors are using that I'm not using in my content. And so I love those tools. So I think it's okay to use as long as you know that it's not meant to be something that you use and then just put it right on your website. So just, make sure that you're not using it as a crutch and using it as a thought-provoking creative tool to help you get started with writing some content.
It's in the helpful content updates to not use AI at scale. So if you're 90% of your content on your website is AI generated, Google can figure that out, then probably not going to help your SEO. But why would you strip your brand voice from your content anyway, right? This is you've got a way that you talk to your customers, and and I think when you rely too much on technology and not enough on branding, you start to lose your brand voice. So yeah, I love that idea, Sherry. Just use it for inspiration. There are some really, and I've tested multiple times in Jasper. I've taken 6 words and I've put them in quotes and put it into Google, and I didn't find the content. I'm like, wow, it's literally writing
It's
unique
crazy.
content.
I mean,
it's so good.
when I interviewed Austin Diestel, I mean, they are incredibly brilliant. For their Amazon description, they actually hired one of the top Amazon, one of the Amazon resellers that
Amazing.
actually sells on Amazon to help them come up with the AI to help them with that portion of the tool. They're wicked smart and it's brilliant. And if you learn to use the tool correctly, I haven't used the tool correctly, I don't think, because I'm not getting amazing results like some people are. But if you actually learn to use it, people are getting amazing results. But again, don't take it, verbatim and copy and paste it. No, you have to add your own voice. Like you said, Steve, add your own voice, add your own content. It has to be yours. It has to be authentic to you and your brand and your company and your products and your services. But it is a valuable tool when you're stuck and you're thinking, I don't know how to start this, or I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do next. So definitely. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, it's great for inspiration, but you want to write naturally and write how humans write, not how computers write. So agree with all of that. All right, let's switch gears to product marketing. So at Google Search On 2022, Google announced it's transforming the way customers shop with Google, bringing customers a more immersive, informed, and personalized shopping experience. Powering this experience is a shopping graph, Google's AI enhanced model that now understands more than 35 billion product listings. Sherry and Stefan, I'm going to ask both of you this question. Would love to hear both your opinions. How can brands improve their user shopping experience in 2023 to increase exposure and conversions? Sherry, would you like to go first and then Stefan?
Yeah, I can jump in first. It sort of goes along the lines with a lot of the other things we have talked about. So if you're selling products, the best thing you can do is include videos, a variety of photos showing different angles of the product so that the consumer can get a really good feel and so that Google can get a good feel of the products that you're selling so they understand which product you're selling and what it does. 360-degree images as well. Local stores and local businesses should take advantage of SWIS, which stands for See What's in Stock. It's a feed that you can take advantage of where you basically put all of your inventory that you have into Google, and Google will actually show when people do a search for a local product, it will show in your Google business profile that that product is in stock at your store. So I would recommend that you do that kind of stuff. The other thing is I got started in the industry running an online pregnancy and baby related product e-commerce store. And so I kind of have mixed feelings about using manufacturer product shots versus your own. And I think you should use a mix because I know that Google understands the stock photos that you get from manufacturers because everybody uses them, even the manufacturers. But I do think you should have a mix of your own original photos as well that are professionally taken so that you can differentiate yourself as well from your competitors when people are looking at your photos on your website. Stefan, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Thanks, Sherry. I'll just tack onto the Google business profile element because that's where I do a lot of my work and something I'm a little more familiar with. But getting your inventory into Google however you can is becoming increasingly important. I saw an incredible study, which hasn't been published yet as far as I know, but just to sort of summarize it, if you have say a sports store and you have a couple sections on your website talking about different types of sports equipment, you might, for example, sell hockey gear. And so somebody on their phone looking for someplace to buy a hockey stick is going to find you in the search results because that's a pretty easy thing to set up, right? Maybe you have it on because it's on your website, your business profile might show that little justification saying, hey, their website mentions hockey equipment or something like that. But if somebody's looking for something more specific, like say hockey skate laces, Google's probably not going to be aware of that unless it's on your website, or if you feed it to them as a product item so that Google knows that you actually have that product. And so suddenly, if you start giving Google all your products and people are searching for those very specific things, your business profile is going to show up for more and more searches. You're going to start to show up for all of those very specific things because Google knows that you carry those products. And there really is a push from Google to get product inventory into their system so that they can surface really relevant search results based on those to answer those really specific queries. To the extent that in their guidelines for business profiles this year in 2022, they added a section about products saying, hey, give us your products, and gave merchants 3 levels of complexity by which they could do that. So if you're a small business and it seems like a pretty daunting task, at very least use the products feature in your business profile and try and put in as much as you can there and let Google know what you sell. But Google does have a free device that you can get called Pointy, and they've got good documentation about it. So it should be pretty easy to look up. But if you can set up your business with Pointy, basically it's just an interface on your point of sale system. And you just scan things as you sell them, and it automatically starts to tell Google what you sell. And that is going to help you show up for search results when people are searching for those very specific things. And then the more complex approach is to use Merchant Center, and that's not something that the small business can probably tackle. But any of these three approaches are being advocated by Google to help them understand what you sell. And if you look at search results and see that there are more and more product results showing up, and knowing that you can show up for all of those very specific queries, I mean, I would really implore any business selling products, retailing products, to explore how they can get their products into their business profile and share that information with Google.
Yep. And just if there are any chains that are on the call right now, that's a service that my agency offers, as well as we help chains get their merchant feed into the Google, see what's in stock as well. So that's something that we offer as well.
You can double up your exposure by doing some of the paid ads as well. And you can micromanage cost per click in Google Ads for shopping ads. So now you've got two opportunities to appear, and you could say, I'm not willing to spend more than 5 cents, for this particular group of products. So if you want to get kind of double exposure, you could do paid and organic in the shopping feed for sure.
5 cents brings me back to the good old days of 1998.
Ooh, Overture. Ooh, old days.
It looks
Love
like we have a question for clarification for something you mentioned earlier, Sherry.
Okay.
An attendee asked, so we shouldn't use manufacturer images.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's good to use a combination of manufacturer images and also your own original images. I'm saying use both if you can, so that you have some photos that are original that you've taken, so that you can differentiate yourself from the competitor. Some manufacturers require you to use their photos. So does that help clarify?
I think so. Hopefully,
Awesome.
I think so.
Thanks.
So we're getting to the end of our webinar today. We've had so much great conversations. So let's get to final advice. I'm going to wrap this up with a question that I'll have all the panelists answer. Do you all have any additional takeaways for what marketers can expect in 2023, or any final pieces of advice you'd like to share with the audience? If you could each give maybe just a brief final takeaway, if you have anything else to share.
Sherry, you want to go first?
Sure, I would love to. Thank you. I would say in 2023, think less about keywords and more about entities and topics. Don't think about, I'm writing for keywords. Think broader about topics, topic clusters, entities, so that's going to expand how you're going to write your content. And Google's going to like that better, because the content that you write is going to be richer and it's going to answer those questions more completely. And that's what Google's going to look for, especially with the new helpful content update, which they just released a second rollout of that update on the 5th. So I think in 2023, that's going to really hit some websites pretty hard. It's a site-wide update. I don't know if they're really calling it's an algorithm update, I suppose. And so you really want to answer as many questions as you can. So I think thinking less keyword specific and more broader topic specific, so you answer topic related questions completely on your pages.
Stephanie, you want to go?
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I don't want to try to make predictions about the future, but I would just say to monitor the search results for the keywords that matter to you, or the searches that matter to you. And I say that because the search results are changing all the time. And it's something that Steve mentioned earlier in the webinar. But, if some clients of mine, I find, they're in a service business, and you get a pretty predictable sort of search result page where maybe there's some ads and then a 3-pack and then some, what Steve described as blue links and black text. But I have other clients in other spaces where they're mixing products and services, and the search results are just so dynamic and so full of different modules. They have different types of ads, and they have video carousels, and they have some links, but they don't have 10 anymore. They might have 4 down at the bottom. And that seems to be changing all the time. And I think it's important to look at what Google considers relevant for the queries that matter to you or to your clients. and figuring out how you can get into those various parts of the search results, because there's so much there, and they're sourced from different things, and they're constantly changing. So just pay attention to what Google displays for the searches that matter.
Love that. I think local search fundamentals are also important to make sure that that doesn't get neglected as we try all the techniques and the tactics that they're going to come by our desks. Focus particularly for local on making sure your business data is accurate in all the right places. The databases such as Data Axle and Localese and Foursquare. I know Rio can do that at scale for you. Focus on local page helpfulness, so the location pages themselves that that you're sending customers to, and maybe even the sub pages, the specialty pages underneath them, are optimized and continuously becoming more helpful. Making sure that every month you're doing something to get more visibility to each location, the name, address, phone number. I know there's a lot of studies around the depreciating value of citations, but we haven't seen that as it relates to actual localized or industry citations. Sure, the merchant circles and hot frogs never really mattered, but your neighboring business referring you is a trust signal, and for users and for search engines, and can be great for you. And lastly, the reputation piece. Make sure that the quality, quantity, and velocity of reviews and ratings that you're getting exceeds that of the status quo. I think it's really important to to pay attention to those 4 items every month. I do have a KPI tracker as well. If you want to have some key performance indicators to hold your team accountable, just go to bit.ly/KPI-tracker. If you want to see a template of performance metrics that the team can get together once a month and say, how are we doing with improving these areas of search? How are we doing with maps versus organic? Set some goals in that last column and see how you're pacing. So every month, everyone gets together and say, how are we doing with hitting our KPI goals for search this year? Well, we're on pace to hit our goal. Great. It's really easy to see that if you have a tool to do it, and that KPI tracker should help. And that's what I got.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up today's discussion. We covered a lot of ground today, so we hope you found the information useful. We will be sharing out a recording to everyone attending and those who weren't able to attend, to share with your colleagues if you found the information today useful, or if you'd like to listen again. I know there were questions we weren't able to get to today, so we'll make sure to follow up with everyone who asked a question afterward. Or if you didn't get a chance to ask, and you can shoot us a note at marketing@rioseo.com. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's discussion, and a special thank you to our awesome panelists, Steve, Stefan, and Sherry, the 3 S's, for taking the time to be with us today. Could you all just briefly mention where our audience members can reach you if they have any one-on-one follow-up questions they'd like to ask you?
You guys go first.
Sure. Yeah, you can follow me at Sherry Bonelli. It's SherryBonelli, or you can email me at info@earlybirddigitalmarketing.com.
Stefan?
I'm just at Stefan Sombrak on Twitter, and I just put it in the chat because Stefan Sombrak can be tricky.
I think I'm the easiest to find. My little handle for over the years has always been SEO Steve. So SEOSTEVE, pretty much everywhere on social. If you want to talk to the team here and look for more examples of things that we talked about today, we're Wiedemann, WIIDEMAN, across all the socials as well. Email, you can just email me at steve@wiedemann.com, and happy to help however we can.
I think we saw one person signed up already for your course, Steve.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Yeah. So we host webinars like this monthly and encourage you to come back for our next one. It's on Wednesday, January 18th, and we're going to talk specifically about content optimization for 2023. It was my pleasure to moderate today's discussion. Again, thanks to the great panel, and we hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.